Hi everybody, I'm Den Haring and welcome back to my channel, Fish Den 365. You know, I often say that my channel is all about the art and science of fishing, especially bass fishing, and today it's no different. We're going to start out with a scientific principle or two from a book here that we're going to explain in a few minutes, and then we're going to talk about an approach, a presentation, the art part of fishing that should help you catch more fish. So I have this book here called Knowing Bass. This was written by Keith Jones. He's a PhD. And Keith was hired by Berkeley to find out as much as he could about bass behavior. What bass, what would trigger them to strike more often. This is how Berkeley Gulp was created among a number of other of the Berkeley lineup of lures. Most of you know that Berkeley has some very positive, good lures out there that are very effective. A lot of that was from the research of this gentleman. And there's something in this book that I want to share with you that I found to be very interesting from the science part of bass fishing, but it also fits very well in the presentation part as well. Let's take a look. So in this book, there's a section on shapes that attract bass, and you can see there's a number of crayfish, right? With the claws, no legs, no appendages, no head, and no tail. And if you look at the graph on the bottom, what they did was they gave these baits to a number of different bass to see what they actually preferred when it came to eating. And amazingly enough, what they found was that the bass preferred the crayfish with no appendages. And look how much they preferred it over the others. A very big difference. That is extremely statistically significant when you see that response rate so much higher on the bait without appendages, on the crayfish without appendages, versus the ones that had partial appendages or were the whole crayfish. It's just an amazing thing. It doesn't make sense. You would think, well, how can that be? It's not. It doesn't follow nature. You'd think a bass would know what its prey should look like and be willing to eat that prey. So it's somewhat counterintuitive. However, the results are the results. And if you think about this a little further, and we will in a few minutes, you'll understand that there's a lot of truth to this. So I'm going to read just one excerpt here from the book that Keith Jones, Dr. Jones, writes about here. So he says, one common mistake among bass anglers is the belief that natural prey shapes make the best strike releasers. Many anglers search out lures with the most natural appearance, or simply use live bait, believing that the best lure to offer bass is what they normally eat. This concept ignores how bass are built. Bass don't evaluate lures according to the naturalness of their shapes. Natural is a human term, not a bass term. Instead, bass evaluate lure shapes according to how well they fit pre-established visual criteria, or in other words, how well they fit the neurological lock. Whether the shape is natural is of no consequence. Anglers would do better to focus on the features of shape that activate strike behavior and then exploit those features for greater effect. So I got to thinking about that, and you know, it's kind of an interesting thing. When you look at some of the most effective bass lures today, what are some of the ones that are catching the most fish? Well, you know, one of the ones that I think of right away is the Ned Rig. You know, a stupid little, it looks like a turd for crying out loud. And yet that lure catches so many bass, and it's so effective. It's just a few inches long. If you don't know what a Ned Rig is, quick show it to you. So here's a typical Ned Rig. This is the bait right here. You just put a very light jig head into here and have the hook sticking out, and that's your Ned Rig. Notice no appendages, no head, no tail, no nothing, just a straight little stick. And yet these things catch fish today probably better than any other bait out there, especially when conditions are tough. And think about this a little bit further. What other baits have been effective over the years? The Senko. No appendages, just a straight body. Doesn't matter how big it is or how small. It's the same shape every time. and these things are known to be killers, right? They catch fish left and right. So another very interesting thought when I start to think about that science, what we learned in that book about shapes and what bass prefer. Here's another one. Before all these lures were were popular, before the Senko even existed, people were fishing tubes, small cylindrical tubes. We still fish tubes today. They're still incredibly effective baits. Not a lot to a tube either when you think about it. So there is something to the science of bass fishing. This is why I studied the science, because it helps me understand bass's behavior, and sometimes it's counterintuitive. It's not what you would think, and it really does make a difference when you understand some of the scientific principles and then apply them in the field to catch more fish. So we talked about the science of it all. Now we're going to talk about the art, and a presentation that I'd like to show you here that I think could be very, very effective. So let's say we're fishing in weed beds and we want to get a bait into the weeds. We already know that a bait with a lot of appendages and big claws and stuff like that, they don't go down through the weeds very well, say milfoil or coontail. And that's because, that's because the claws and whatnot get stuck, and they get stuck on the weeds, and then you have to increase your weight to an ounce and a half to get it through. Well, this is a bait here that doesn't have any of that, and it probably would slip through the weeds quite well. And I think this could be a very effective lure. Well, I actually know it's a very effective lure because I have experience with it. So what I've done was I've taken a VMC, show you this. I've taken a VMC half moon weight, 1/8 ounce. Now it could be heavier. They got them up to 3/16, maybe even heavier than that. But this one's in 1/8 ounce, and I took a large TRD. This is the same company that makes the Ned Rig, but it's just a larger one. And I've stuck that weight in the bottom. I just screwed it in there. You have to work it in there, but once it's in, it's not coming out. So now you've got that weight in the bottom of the bait, and you can see I already Texas rigged the hook here. You just tie your line to this hook, and now you can pitch and flip this thing into the weeds or cast it. And the interesting thing about this rig, the way it's set up, is that normally your weight would be on the front of the hook, so that when you pitch that out and it goes to the bottom, it'll go to the bottom like this, and then when you pull it, lift it up, it goes forward towards you. But this is different because the weight is in the back. So when you pitch this out, it's going to go this way down to the bottom, and then when you lift it up and put slack in your line, it's going to go right back down towards the fish, potentially, right? Away from you, not towards you. This is also how a crawfish or a crayfish would establish a defensive position. It would go forward, and then they swim backward. They swim back and away. So this could be a very good presentation. This one's called Peanut Butter and Jelly. It's a pretty good crawfish color. And so if you're willing to try this, I think that you might find that it's extremely effective in weed beds. Now the other thing you can do, and this is something I haven't done yet, but I want to do it, is do the same thing with the smaller size Ned Rig. Now maybe we're fishing in a river. I could take a smaller one of these weights, maybe a 1/16 ounce half moon wacky weight, stick it in the back of this bait, put a smaller hook in the front. And one of the issues with a Ned Rig in the river, if I was just fishing a jig head on this, for example, just a standard jig head, now when I'm hitting the bottom, I can get that hung up, right? I can get the hook hung into the bottom of the river. If there's a lot of rocks, that's what smallmouth usually like, so I'm usually fishing rocky bottoms. And you can hang up quite a bit, especially when the river current is washing down. But if you use this type of presentation just on a smaller bait, and even this bait's not too big, you can throw this in the river for smallmouth. Now what's on the bottom is that weight, and the hook is up off the bottom. So the hook is actually never going to hit the bottom, and you could work it and let it float. You can let the current wash it down, and now it's up off the bottom. The fish are going to come from the top. They'll go right to where the hook is. You're going to get better hookup percentage potentially. This could be a killer in rivers too. So there's another tip for you to try this summer and fall. See if that doesn't work for you as well. Well, I hope we gave you something to really consider here, especially when you mix the science with the art of this and put the two together to help you catch more fish. If you like the video, make sure you hit the thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Hit that bell when you do. That'll give you a notification for when my next video will be available. Right now I am waiting to get another procedure done, which is kind of stopping me from getting out on the water. I have a procedure scheduled for July 13th. I'll have a couple-week recovery. I'll try and do some videos about some of the art and science like this one in between. But then after that, hopefully I'll be able to get out on the water and do some things right out in the field and catch some fish that way and have some videos that way as well. So be patient with me. Hang in there. Keep watching the channel for more information. Again, we're all about the art and science of bass fishing, fishing in general. We're certified Bassified. And as always, may God bless your fishing endeavors.